Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the spooky ooky Friday the 13th MSP Dispatch. Joined as always by my co-host Tony Francisco. How you doing, brother?
Excellent, Ray. Friday the 13th. That was an awesome intro. You didn't have to remind me, but now I'm going to be a little freaked out. So,
well, I think it's safe to say we're calling this the Scary Stories episode, right? I mean, we have this is just chock full of security stories and just oddness that I never thought I'd have to worry about, but unfortunately, it is. So, why don't we get into our first scary story, huh? So if it wasn't enough to look for pop-ups and downloaded apps and bad file extensions and everything else, the researchers at Kaspersky have found a new way to inject malware and hide it in plain sight. Malicious actors are able to put shellcode into Windows event logs. They found this in the wild around February 2022. This occurs by injecting shellcode via a custom malware dropper, and it hides in plain sight. They take advantage of a DLL exploit to hide as a copy of a legitimate error file. This makes it even more difficult to be able to identify and act against this malicious software. To discuss this, we brought in an expert that knows more than we do about the subject. Please help me in welcoming Bryson Medlock, Threat Intelligence Evangelist over at ConnectWise. How you doing, Bryson?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, man. So this, it's one thing to say, okay, well, we're looking for files that are being active, executables, whatever it is. This is literally hiding in plain sight. How does this affect the landscape of being able to identify threats on a system?
Well, so the initial access isn't through the logs. I mean, the way they're getting people to actually, get infected is still the same ways that we've, seen for a while. That they're trying to convince users to download a file. It's the main initial infection that was talked about in the article was actually a RAR file. So they had to get users to download that somehow. It's not clear how, whether it was through phishing or some other means. And then it actually downloaded Cobalt Strike. So the actual initial infection vectors are things we're already familiar with. So those aren't necessarily new. But then it does use, lulbin, so living off the land. It didn't create its own utility for accessing the logs. It's using the WER fault.exe, which WER is the Windows error reporting tool. So if you've got an error in Windows, it's the tool that actually writes to those logs. It's using that same binary. It does make a copy of it into another directory, and then it's using DLL side loading to load its own custom DLL, which is actually where all the fun work happens. That's what actually logs the shellcode to the logs and then reads the logs in order to pull the shellcode out. But overall, it's still using the actual Windows error logging tool, and it's still using common infection mechanisms. Now, it is this particular threat actor. It's kind of unclear who it is. Going through the article, they haven't really attributed to anybody. A lot of the techniques that we've seen here are new techniques. They're doing quite a bit of like anti-VM and anti-antivirus and anti-detection tools using various compilers, a lot of encrypted payloads. They're injecting a lot of stuff directly into memory. Calling it fileless isn't entirely accurate because there are a lot of files that get dropped. I think in the article there were like 15 different files that they had looked at, but all of them, there was various techniques they were used. All of them were compiled differently using different compilers. Some of them were written in Go. It is pretty interesting kind of tool set because there were just so many different things that they did. This event log part of it just kind of being something that we haven't necessarily seen exactly like this before. There has been malware that have used logs or something like logs before, but not directly into the Windows event log like this.
Just to be clear, the entry point isn't the event log itself. The entry point is in the operating system, and you haven't determined how that has happened. Is it through clicking on something, through a browser, flaw in some capacity, or a script is inserted, maybe an attachment that was opened? You haven't figured out how that malware is inside the operating system itself, which then allows the DLL to be triggered, side loading, which, by the way, I really like the way you said it was fun and true as the horror happens in true Friday the 13th fashion. It's fun. And as the horror is occurring, all of this malware is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, but it's not originating at the event logs. It's surfacing at the event logs to execute certain components, but it originated inside the operating system, and you can't figure out the way it was planted in there, correct?
Right. The part that involves the event logs is really how it's maintaining persistence. So it actually writes to the Windows registry like a startup location, so that when it starts up, it calls up this particular WER fault.exe, which again is a legit Windows tool. It calls that, and then when that particular, so they've copied it to a different directory, so it's not the one that's normally in the Windows system in the Windows directory, but they've created in a Windows task directory. And whenever an exe loads, there's a bunch of DLLs it has to load. So those are dynamic link libraries that have additional code that gets loaded when the exe loads. And the way that DLLs are loaded, rather than actually having the locations like hard coded into the exe, often it's like a relative location. And so in this case, the WER.dll, which again is the normal one, that's the name of an actual legit Windows DLL. But since they've moved this particular WER fault to a different directory, they've loaded their own WER.dll. And the Windows tool, that when it loads, it looks for that DLL in its current directory, and it loads that. It doesn't do any kind of checking or anything.
Is a reboot required in order for visibility or for recognition? I'm just trying to figure out how long it will stay dormant post, slipstreamed inside the OS and before it can execute.
I don't think it requires a reboot.
You just mentioned it reads the registry on start. So
right. So, but yeah, after reboot though, that's how it maintains persistence. But the particular stuff happening in the event log is basically then launching the other parts of the malware. So there's multiple stages to this, and there's multiple things. There's even they in the article, they went through multiple different final stage payloads that they've seen. So there's not even like just one thing that they're doing, and then there's a number of different initial access. So while they're using a specific file to kind of start the thing off, they've actually attempted different methods of actually getting people to download the file. So yeah, whether it's using something in the browser or a link's embedded somewhere or an email. Again, the data on it's still a little kind of unclear on all the exact mechanisms that have been used, but they do say that there's been multiple methods going back actually as far as September 2021 as far as initial infection goes.
Wow, that's terrifying stuff. That's crazy stuff. And for those that want to keep track of this and others, you put up your Patch Tuesday notes. I see you post pretty regularly in other circles as well, and also you're on MSP Geek, always in the security channel, in the ConnectWise channel. Bryson, thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it, dude. We'll definitely be reaching out in the future for more security news and your insights.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Bryson.
Absolutely. So, Tony, we're hearing about we're hearing MSPs are at risk, right? I mean, if we're keeping to the scary stories, the boogeymen are going after not the kids in their rooms, but they're going after the MSPs in their offices. What's going on there?
Terrifying. On Friday the 13th, as mentioned in ZDNet, hackers are using tech services companies as a launch pad to attack customers. Tech services companies are the MSPs, our core audience here at MSP Dispatch. A warning from the International Cybersecurity Agency has urged IT service providers and their customers to take actions immediately to protect themselves from the threat of supply chain attacks. Quote, as this advisory makes it clear, Malicious cyber actors continue to target managed service providers, MSPs, which is why it's critical that the MSPs and their customers take recommended actions to protect their networks, says Jen Easterly, the director of U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. That is CISA. Ray, CISA is a well-known security framework, and they're speaking directly to our core audience, the MSP. Hackers are understanding that the MSP is so deep inside so many customers, and they are the perfect, most effective launchpad as opposed to hitting every single customer independently. Why not just go after the MSP, which has access to many customers? This is terrifying. This is the definition of a Friday the 13th scenario that is terrible, and it's been happening more and more frequently. What are your thoughts on this? This is clearly a trend. Give me your perspective.
It sucks to say because it's just not anything new, right? We've talked about this in previous dispatch episodes. We've been seeing this previously. They're going further and further upstream because the net can be cast wider. MSPs are the easiest net to attack. I still run across it every day where, and I don't mean to discard my industry's practice at all, but I still come across some MSPs every day where they complain that their clients won't enable MFA. They won't enable, they won't adhere to, typical security practices, right? Unique logons and, and filtering and having a good stack and good procedures and training. This happens regularly where MSPs complain their clients won't do this, but they're still supporting them, or the MSPs themselves aren't doing this. And so they become really easy, low-hanging fruit targets. And once you can access them, you can access, their plethora of clients. It's sad, but it's not surprising at all.
We just, here on MSP Dispatch, we just talked about two of the entry points about the same concept of hackers coming into to exploit opportunities. And the entry point being on the end user accidentally clicking on something, browsing something, opening an attachment, whatever it may be. But we're talking end user. So you have security awareness training that can hopefully solidify your end user perspective. But now we're talking about a completely different entry point through the back door, the MSP, which is then distributed willfully and lawfully because the MSP has approved it, unbeknownst to the MSP from a supply chain management perspective, and distributed to all of their customers. And we saw this with Kaseya, we saw this with SolarWinds, we saw this with a variety of different MSP tools that are used frequently. This is becoming a real horror story to the point that every MSP has to standardize. They have to reach out to, the CISA framework is an amazing framework. There's multiple frameworks out there that are great, but they have to address the lowest common denominator before they choose the framework that they're going to continually stay up to date on. And that's only giving the hackers the low-hanging fruit. So don't be the low-hanging fruit, audience. Get out there, go to the CISA website, figure out what framework is best for you. CompTIA is a great organization that can actually get you started in that as well. A lot of free resources readily available, but make that start. This is something that we've been reporting on since the very beginning, and the trend is continuing to increase. That being said, Ray, do you have anything else, ironically, about CISA? All I see is all these articles of Friday the 13th terror and scary stuff.
Thankfully, and apparently maybe we rename this to the CISA episode. Like you said, CISA puts out tons of incredible information. And, they're always giving us information that we can use to protect ourselves and to keep an eye on the current threat landscape. In that vein, they released an article on May 11th citing protecting against cyber attacks to managed service providers and their customers. And it gave several tips and articles on how to do these things, stuff like how to prevent initial compromise, enabling and improving active monitoring and logging processes, surprise, enabling multi-factor authentication, MFA, applying principle of least privilege, deprecating obsolete accounts and infrastructure. It was tons of, I want to say, obvious things that should be done, but they unfortunately, it's one of those things you need to keep saying it over and over again. To discuss the impact of these practices, both from the security side and also from the MSP side, we brought on two guests. Please help me in welcoming Chris Furner, Senior Sales Engineer at Blooper, and Kirk Lesser, President Owner of Renaissance IT Consulting, based out in California. Chris, Kirk, how you doing, guys?
Great.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
Pleasure
you.
to have you guys on.
So, Chris, I want to start with you. You saw the CISA article. You saw the tips and the practices they're telling us to implement. Is any of this new?
No, I mean, it's great to just keep saying it over and over again. But yeah, none of this is new, and it's worthwhile when these come out to really just start going through these articles or these alerts and say, all right, what are we doing here? Where can we do more? And really, you have to just keep doing more. I think that the big thing with this alert was that this wasn't just CISA. This is 5 different countries that had their hands in this alert. And I think that's a big warning that MSPs and MSP tools are on the radar of the international government and law enforcement community. And it's really at this point up to the MSPs to make sure they're being good members of the cybersecurity community and not allowing their tools to be incredibly efficient malware distribution platforms, that's why you're being targeted, because not only do you have great RMM and screen share technology that works well, but you also have password credential databases, proprietary company data, access to backup data, all that stuff. So nothing here is really new, but this should be a really big warning that if MSPs don't behave and step it up, there's going to be a lot of scrutiny from governments and probably from insurers as well too.
That brings up a good point, right? These are the cybersecurity agencies or authorities of the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and of course the United States, including CISA, NSA, and FBI. They all work together to put this together. Kirk, you're the MSP that you're protecting your customers. You do you're active in the communities. You're active. You're always staying on top of this stuff. Were there anything here that was surprising to you that you weren't already implementing or planning on implementing?
I mean, nothing looks surprising to me. It's always, what can we do to help our customers, our clients, and then also what can we do to keep prevention ourselves? I know that we've got several things. I had my credentials removed from our RMM tools about 3 to 4 years ago, my screen share tools, because one, I don't want to be doing the support tickets when I'm running the company, but secondly, my name is out there. So all we need is a cyber criminal to get a hold of some sort of breach that got my credentials, and then they have easy access in. So I've blocked myself from those tools. We have certain processes in place for the different tools we use. All of them are MFA. We are on clients that have domain controllers. We're using QuickPass to rotate domain admin credentials every 24 hours. And as I say to clients, is that it's kind of a 3-way street that I think MSPs have to look at, is education, prevention, and remediation. And always look at those tools, look at how you can harden those tools and those processes to prevent this from happening to MSPs.
I want to ask you really quick, as the MSP that's trying to implement these things, MSPs are usually quicker to adopt new tools and practices. We're adept at this, right? And Chris, you came from an MSP before Blooper. I mean, MSPs love doing this, but Kirk, client adoption, telling them, okay, you have to do these practices to be secure. Do you get any reticence, any pushback when you're talking to your clients about this stuff?
Occasionally, but I think it's building up that transparency and that trust with the clients. When we are onboarding a client, we do technology reviews starting 2 weeks in, 1 month in, 2 months in, and then quarterly afterwards. And it's building that trust, building the relationship of, this is why we're recommending this, and having a tool that's out there that helps you with the quarterlies. We use a specific one that's helped us greatly, and having conversations with clients. And as I say, is we want to be the professional services company. We want to be like the trusted business attorney, the CPA. We're not the janitor that comes in and cleans up the mess when a machine breaks. You need to build that up as soon as possible with those businesses, so that way you can have those conversations. All of our clients have MFA turned on. We've got geolocation turned on for the various aspects of Office 365. There's certain ways that you can do things even behind the scenes that the client doesn't even have to pay for. Like MFA, I can't tell you how many times I talk to a new client. It's like, well, we don't want MFA turned on. It's a nuisance. And I'll say, what's a bigger nuisance? Getting ransomware and not having a business in 6 months. And, you tell them it's absolutely free. All we've got to do is turn it on in the background. And some of them will say, well, I didn't know that it was free. Let's do it immediately. So sometimes education is the best policy, is just talking to the client and being a fellow business owner or business executive of, we want to look out for your best interests, because you get hit with something, we're going to lose revenue as a result of you going under. So it's just having those conversations.
That's a great feedback, and what I really enjoyed is that you are not only structuring everything out of the gate with your customer of this is how we're going to proceed, but you're also doing things internally, such as removing your name because you are a public figure. Huge admiration for that. It's the small things, it's the little things that'll kill you. And if you're able to practice what you preach, say what you do, and more importantly, do what you say to the end customer and create those pre-scheduled milestones, I see that as an absolute formula for success on all sides. And if there's any confusion in that from the customer perspective, explaining to them that if something happens to them, that's how you make money. I mean, it's going to directly impact your well-being. It's in everyone's better interest for you to focus on doing your job and making sure that they don't prevent you from doing your job the best that you can do it. So I really appreciated that, hearing that.
Awesome. So Kirk, Chris, thank you so much for giving your insight on this. We appreciate it. We will include LinkedIn links for both Chris and Kirk in the show notes below. If you're an MSP that's implementing this or looking at implementing these things, we want to hear from you. We want to know how it's affecting you, how it's affecting your clients. Hit us up in the comments, hit us up at news@mspmedia.tv or any of the socials, and we'll be sure to talk about it on the next episode. Thanks so much, guys. We look forward to having you on in a future episode for your insights in future stories.
Thanks for
loved having you guys on the show, you guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
In notable mentions, we have Bleeping Computer reporting that the May edition of Patch Tuesday from Microsoft is affecting AD joined computers. After the update, we're seeing that servers and workstations that are Active Directory joined are failing after the security updates are patching. They're getting an error saying authentication failed due to user credential mismatch. This is affecting all versions, all current versions of Windows, both workstation and servers. We will include the link in the show notes below for additional information as it comes out. In our last Boogeyman story, and very sad, 157-year-old Lincoln College based in Illinois, a private college, is closing after 157 years. They're a private college federally recognized as a PBI, or predominantly Black institution, that's welcomed thousands of first-generation college students and has survived things such as the 1918 influenza, the Great Depression, and World War II. Unfortunately, COVID-19 paired with a ransomware attack in 2021, December of 2021, was enough to finally push the college past what it could handle. The school was already suffering diminished admissions due to COVID-19. They put money in towards new security, new technology, and despite all that, after the ransomware event in December of 2021, it affected their ability to bring on new admissions. The school ended up paying less than $100,000 for the ransomware, but they would need more than $53 million to survive the event. So it is with great sadness we say goodbye to Lincoln College, and we thank you for your efforts for over 150 years. We will include links to the story in the show notes below. If you are a graduate or you have family members that attended Lincoln College or it affected your life in any way, we definitely want to hear it in the comments below, or hit us up, news@mspmedia.tv. And with that, it's a wrap. I hope everybody has a better weekend than this, and no more horror stories. So what about you, Tony? What do you have planned for the weekend?
It's beautiful now in Florida, so we're a lot of yard work, making things pretty again. It's going to be great weather, but I'm just happy to get over the Friday the 13th. There's so much news out there, and I'm really excited to see what happens next week. I really hope everyone has a great weekend. What kind of community events are happening right now?
Actually, yeah, we have some stuff coming up next week. Let's bring those up on the screen. We have the CyberCall CISO Summit, number 2. This is the Andrew Morgan CyberCall that happens every Monday. We'll include the links below. That's an important one. We're going to have the CISOs from ConnectWise, Kaseya, Enable, and Datto speaking out, giving an open Q&A. The first one was fantastic. The second one, I'm very much looking forward to it. May 16th, we have Channel Strong Tour Midwest Part 2. May 17th, the Ingram Micro Cloud Summit 2022 here in Miami Beach, Florida, which I meant to attend, and then I double booked myself for a family trip, and I apologize to those I was supposed to hook up with. May 17th also, we'll be doing MSP Dispatch presented by us, the MSP Media Network. May 18th, we have How to Have Difficult Conversations Before They Become Impossible Part 2. That was a fun event where we actually ran long, and we had so much Q&A that we decided to do a second one. And then May 18th through 19th, 7-Figure MSP live in Dallas. We will have some people there having a good time. But we look forward to, if you're going to any of these events, hit us up, and we definitely want to hear from you. With that, we say goodbye to our MMN audience. Thank you so much for spending the last 25 minutes with us. We appreciate you. Take care of yourselves and each other.
If you like this content, please click like and subscribe.
Just to be clear, Ray, everyone's security is a huge issue. Update everything. But hold on. I just want to make sure we're all seeing the irony and the hypocrisy of our messaging, but we're trying.
Yeah, it's a sad day. It's a sad day.
Friday the 13th, everyone.
Actually, Phil, you might want to just put that as like a.
Ooh, what just happened?
Do that after the close, like as a blooper.
Oh, what just happened?
Well,
can you hear me?
These are the notables. Yeah.
No. Did you? Or, oh, like you went full screen. Like I don't even. What did you do differently? Because I don't see anything anymore. Can you take off full screen?
I'm not. It's not full screen. I see.
Oh, what just happened? Like, did I click the link? Oh, I think I clicked the link or something right when you said that.
You made it full screen.
It went to a different browser. It went to a different browser, Lincoln College.
All right.
Sorry. It's kind of freaking out.
okay.
I was like, my computer's been hacked.